Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you are watching the Mojo Story. A London bound Air India Boeing Dreamliner carrying 242 passengers crashed shortly after takeoff, precisely in a matter of 32 seconds. Yesterday, in which 241 people, including former Gujarat CM, died. The aircraft struck a medical college hostel, and there were some casualties on the ground also. Prime Minister Modi today visited the crash site. He met with the injured and he's also held high level reviews. Meanwhile, DNA tests are underway to identify the victims. Uh, and the Tata Group has announced a compensation of 1 crore rupees. Now, there is another development that has taken place. Tensions between Israel and Iran have disrupted international airspace, forcing Air India to cancel or reroute flights, which has affected the airport operations. The airline has issued a travel advisory about the developing situation. Now, to discuss these issues, we are joined today by Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who is a senior fellow at IPCS. Welcome to the show, Abhijit ji. And we are also joined by Harshit Sharma, who is my colleague at the Mojo Story. With your permission, Abhijit ji, can I first cut across to Harshit to ask him what is the situation on the ground? Harshit, you are at the hospital, I believe. What can you share with us? The Prime Minister was there today. He met with the people who are injured. It's an extremely devastating scenes that we have been seeing since yesterday.
The scenes here, Gafar, are actually very, very devastating. They are very heartbreaking. I've been here for more than 3.5 hours now. We have seen people coming here looking for their loved ones, looking for their family, ultimately not able to find them, giving their blood sample, and then being told that come back again after 72 hours, and probably, if you're lucky enough, you'll get the body of your loved one if the DNA sample matches. Uh, Last I spoke to the officer in charge here, he told me that out of 265 bodies which were brought to the postmortem center, the cold room in the civil hospital here in Ahmedabad, 204 the sample of blood sample for the DNA testing of 204 family members have been collected, and the process is still undergoing. Now, what exactly is happening here is that the family members of different victims from across the country are coming here to the civil hospital in Ahmedabad. They are giving their blood sample, and then they are being asked to come back after 72 hours, or the authorities themselves are going to call them and tell them if the DNA samples collected from them has matched, and then accordingly collect the body from the cold room in the civil hospital. These are very devastating scenes. Of course, yes, the Prime Minister also visited the site. He also went to the place where this whole tragic crash took place. Here, the photographs on your screen. He also met the survivor, the one and only survivor of on the plane, who somehow magically managed to survive this incident. But the stories of the families who have lost their loved ones. Let me tell you one thing. I met one family today in the DNA testing room, which is now closed for the media. The media personnel cannot enter the DNA testing room. I met one family. His mother, there's this guy Ravi, a young man. His mother used to prepare food at the mess of the hostel where this flight, crashed into. 40, 45-year-old lady, she also used to take care of the 2-year-old girl child of that particular boy. And how unfortunate, how cruel can the life be? Both of them have died, Zafar. And the worst part is this boy, Ravi, doesn't even know where his mother, where his daughter actually is. The doctors here in the civil hospital have told them to give a blood sample, and then they are going to look for the body of his mother and his 2-year-old daughter. And this innocent man, this helpless man, with sheer innocence in his eyes, told me that, sir, I'm still hopeful. If you can help me out in searching my mother, please do that. And I unfortunately had no answer to it, Zafar. These are devastating scenes here at the civil hospitals. And if I am to update you with the facts, out of 265 bodies, more than 200 blood samples have been collected. And within the next 72 hours, there are high possibilities of the bodies being collected by the family members after the DNA reports are matched. here in the civil
Right.
hospital.
Right. Abhijit ji, you heard this ground report by my colleague. Extremely devastating, shocking tragedy that has taken place. Yesterday, the entire focus was on the rescue operation. We were seeing fire tenders moving to the spot, trying to move the injured people. Then we saw one survivor walking. There was some hope that more people would have survived. That did not happen. And then the other tragedy, the plane just collided with the building, and there were children who were the students who were there for a meal, and they also some casualties. Now perhaps the time has come to raise some question that why did this happen at all, because yesterday the entire focus was on the rescue mission. What is your sense after seeing this 32-second video? We have got a timer also on this video. Maybe we can play it full screen. Yesterday there were many theories making around that perhaps it could be a sabotage, perhaps it could be that human error, it could be an error of the machine. What is the sense that you make after seeing this 32-second clip, the moment the flight takes off and then it just falls down?
So Zafar, within the first 2-3 seconds of takeoff itself, you can see something is wrong, because
Yeah,
it should have climbed very, very rapidly. It
yeah,
flew straight for far too long, at which point you knew within about 5 seconds of the nose of the plane going up in the air,
yeah,
that something was wrong. And then, of course, you see that the flight path goes down. Now, there are two things we know. There's one thing we know for a fact, that the captain did report a loss of thrust. Now, a loss of thrust, these planes, they are extremely capable. They can, in certain emergencies, they can just climb on one engine alone. So,
yes,
a loss of thrust would mean the loss of both engines. Uh, and we don't know how that happens, because statistically it is close to a zero probability that you lose both engines on in modern aviation like this. Number
yeah,
two, uh, is that the situation that you see is very peculiar, because the flaps which are meant to create more lift are absolutely straight, which means the pilot was trying to gain speed, and at the same time the wheels are still down, which means it was slowing the plane down in that sense.
right,
uh, Third is, the only third possibility I can think of right now is that there was some kind of either overloading or a misentry of data as to luggage load and where the luggage was placed, temperature data, etc., which is crucial in determining the length of the takeoff. But like I said, these are all speculations till the black box is completely analyzed. Because what the black box tells you is, not only does it tell you the conversations that have happened in the cockpit, it also details what switches were turned on, what switches were turned off, and what data the pilots were seeing on their screens. The last thing I'm going to say is, it's generally uh, we should be a bit cautious about even speculating about human error right now, because if you remember in the 2002 Uberlingen mid-air collision over Switzerland, uh, based on the speculation of human error by the ATC, one of the victims' families actually went and killed the ATC controller. So
mhm,
I'm always very, very skeptical about uh, talking about human error at this stage.
right. It is all a matter of inquiry and investigation. But what we can say is that the pilot did not notice anything unusual on the tarmac, because the flight took off. The flight took off, and then suddenly it just jammed. There was a complete freeze, and it's very unlikely, as you were saying, that both the engines will fail. If one engine would have failed, the other would have still carried on with the job. But both the engines failed, and there was hardly any time. And I think the pilot did not have the power in his machine even to maneuver to move the flight away from those buildings. It was completely helpless situation at that point in time.
Exactly right, Zafar. So, the thing is, apparently a message went out from the captain saying, Mayday, Mayday. The thing is, there are different speeds at which the plane, when it takes off, is very, very heavy, especially on a London flight. It would be close to its full capacity on fuel and luggage and things like that. So, once a certain speed is reached, I'm not going to go into the technical language, but once a certain speed is reached on the runway, you cannot abort takeoff, even if the indications are something has gone wrong. So we don't know when the Mayday call went out. Was it when he was still on the runway and he had reached the compulsory takeoff speed? Or was it when he got airborne and something then clicked? Now, remember, there are always backup systems on the plane. So, for example, assume a baggage loader has entered wrong weight information. There are sensors even within the aircraft which should technically be able to tell you what the weights are on different parts of the aircraft. And there is a cross checking procedure that happens. So, like I said, we don't know what has gone wrong, but clearly it was catastrophic enough. Now, on average, this plane has enough power, had even one engine been operational, to do a go around, dump a lot of fuel, and therefore reduce its weight and come in for a landing, which is the safe
Yeah.
procedure to do.
Yeah.
Here, there was clearly no time. Now, 30 seconds from when the nose wheel is up in the air to, well, 32 or 33 seconds to the crash, there is literally no time to respond. Normally, situations like this happen at a few thousand feet, where you've got several minutes to sit and plot a response. You've got several minutes to then glide. These
Yeah.
aircraft, they can, even without any power, they can
They can do
literally
that.
glide down to an unpowered landing if the need arises. uh, that wasn't the case out here. So there's a lot to look at in terms for the air investigation, the air investigators to look at.
Absolutely, all these points are very, very significant. There was also one theory about bird hits, but I think if even if there was a bird hit, it could damage one engine. How is it that bird hits would damage two engines, and then that would happen also simultaneously? Both the engines will get damaged. That looks an unlikely sort of a situation that would have happened. But it's a matter of investigation. What is your sense?
So the thing is, first, there had to have been multiple birds had that been the case. Number one. Number two, had there been bird hits that had damaged the engine, you would have seen some kind of a smoke trail, even a minor smoke trail, coming out of the engine or engines, as the case may be. Like I said, one engine, a bird damaging one engine is not enough to bring the plane down. The third thing is, we should remember that all these engines, they go through a mandated test called the chicken feed test, where you simulate heavy rain, water going through the engines, and then chickens, dead chickens with their feathers and everything, are fed into the engine in the test chamber, where it tests the rigidity and solidity of the engine. So bird strike can't bring down a wide body airliner like this all that quickly. So I'm still quite skeptical. The issue about bird strikes, of course, is it is impossible to tell from the grainy nature of the video. Uh, but on residual evidence, I would say a bird hit does not seem to be the likely cause right now.
And this loss of thrust is also symmetrical. It has not lost the balance. It did not go one way. It just fell down. That's also one could observe from that video.
100% Zafar. This is the strange thing, because had one engine gone down, you would have seen the vertical stabilizer and the rudders move in one direction or the other in order to compensate for the lack of thrust only on one side, right? But if you look at the images, there doesn't seem to be any movement of the fin stabilizers or the vertical stabilizer at all. So again, we don't know. There are more unanswered questions right now. Like the wing commander said to Barkha in yesterday's show, it is a very peculiar configuration of the plane that raises more questions than it gives answers as to what exactly happened.
Absolutely. And when you look at this video again, it seems that initially everything is okay. The aeroplane moves on the tarmac, it's all okay, and then it starts to move up, and then the problem starts.
Yes.
Had the pilot got some sort of an indication that there is a problem, he might have just aborted this flight. He might have just stopped at the tarmac only. So there were indications that everything is okay, but once it just took off, initially there was thrust. Otherwise, it would not have taken off. So the thrust was there, and then that thrust was all gone in a symmetric manner.
So the thing there again is, if I don't know what the V1 V2 speed is for the 787, but once V1 is say about 20-30 kilometers per hour, you can abort the takeoff. But once you've reached V2, that is the point of no return, wherein you are hurtling down the runway, and even if the systems go off, you have to take off, because it's almost, think of it as a truck with several
Hmm.
100 tons of load.
Hmm.
If it breaks all of a sudden, that is all the tonnage at the back will literally crash through the front of the truck and kill the driver and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is catastrophic. At that point, it is actually safer to take off. uh, I suspect that is what has happened, depending on when the mayday call from the pilot went out. But within about 2 or 3 seconds, Zafar, it is very clear that the plane is in trouble, because when we are sitting inside the plane, we don't realize this, but the initial takeoff to about 4-5 thousand feet is actually quite steep. Plane will go like this. It shouldn't rise like this. It actually goes up something like this.
Hmm.
And within about 2-3 seconds, you can tell that because altitude hasn't been reached, this plane is in serious trouble. And actually, within about 5 seconds, see, at this point, this exact point that you're looking at, something is wrong. So within
Yeah.
about 5 seconds of the takeoff, something is wrong, because that nose needs to be at least another 20 degrees further up in the air while it was going
Hmm.
up. That wasn't the case. So I doubt very much the pilot violated protocol. This is something that needs to be looked into. I am not seeing human error right now in this, as far as I can tell. But that picture is based on a composite data that you get from the black box.
All of these theories are, they're all in the realm of speculation, that contaminated fuel, bird hit, human error, machine failure, sabotage. All of this is a matter of investigation, and we hope that there will be a time bound investigation, because this is very serious what has happened. We haven't, at least in our times, we have not seen such a major disaster, aerial, the way that this plane suffered. No, we haven't seen that. It must have happened in the past, but we haven't seen that such a major disaster. In just a matter of 32 seconds, the plane just collapses and falls down.
So this kind of incident, Zafar, we haven't seen, maybe I may be wrong, but say within the last 20-25 years of aviation. All the incidents that have happened have been because of, say, design flaws, say like the Boeing 737 max, which has gotten Boeing into lots of trouble. But all other aviation incidents that have happened have been because air traffic control told the planes to land too early. There was
Mm.
somebody on the runway, collisions midair and things like that. Human error has played a large part. For something like this to happen, this is not something we have seen in an extremely long time, that a plane just loses both engines at the same time,
Right.
if that is indeed the case, and crash lands like that.
Right. Harshit, can you hear me? If I may just ask you that, now that all of this has happened, unfortunately, you were saying that DNA testing is taking place. When will those procedures be completed there? I'm sure that people from other states, their families have also come in, and it's clearly a big tragedy that has taken place. What are you hearing on that?
Oh, next 72 hours are going to be very difficult for the families, because I've met families who came from Bangalore. I've met this one gentleman who came from Bangalore. Unfortunately, he has lost his wife, and once he gave his blood sample, he has now decided to go back to Bangalore. After he receives the call, after 72 hours, he'll be probably coming back to Ahmedabad to collect his wife's body. So there are multiple different decisions being taken by the family. And yeah, next 72 hours are actually going to be very difficult. I spoke to a doctor as well who was collecting the blood samples, and she, in fact, told me that the burns, the degree of burns which have occurred are to quite an extent, even more than 70% in many cases. Which means, I mean, if you imagine, if you consider 70% of the body is burned, what does that even mean? I mean, that is one of the most unfortunate visual one family member has to ever see in his or her life. I, in fact, taking forward with what Abhijit had also mentioned, I also want to talk about the post crash visuals, Zafar. I mean, I went to the site today and hell of the visuals. I mean, I could clearly observe that the plane which Abhijit was talking a few moments ago was at a top speed, because when I went to the site, when we saw that the plane, the tail of the plane, which was stuck into the wall of the mess of that particular hostel, from that place, the engine of the plane was somewhere near 700, 800 meters away, which somehow makes me think, makes me wonder what would have been the speed of that particular plane, because it's not so much some sort of a toy which is light in weight. If a plane hits a building at that speed, that the engine falls away at 700, 800 meters away, the multi-story buildings, top floor of the building collapses completely. And I've seen the visuals, I've seen the pictures, which we cannot show on our program for obvious reasons. I've seen people buried under the ground. I've seen a photograph. I mean, I don't know how to explain this. I saw a photograph of a lady. I could only see her forehead above the ground. She was completely buried under the ground. I mean, imagine the impact of that collision, and which makes me wonder that the plane was probably at the top speed.
Harshit, we saw those visuals. It's extremely unfortunate, extremely tragic, the situation that you are describing, and that is why it is a very serious matter. It has to be, there has to be a proper inquiry and investigation done about it. We know you have sent us a report. We'll play that later. But Abhijit, I wanted to come to a different, subject now. The situation that's developing in Middle East. Israel has struck Iran, and that has really, caused a disruption in the flights. Some of the flights have been diverted, some have been cancelled. Barkha was coming from US to India, and her flight has got diverted to Vienna, some other country, and she's also stranded. How significant is this as far as this, air operations are concerned for India at least?
It's huge for India because most of our flights to Europe and America have to go through the Middle East.
Yeah,
We're not using Pakistani airspace at the moment. So what happens is they go south to Mumbai, and then they turn west and go via Iran, Jordan, Iraq, and that kind of airspace.
yeah.
And that already, and operating to North America, they're already stretched at maximum range. So what ends up happening is that this additional 2-3 thousand kilometers that's added because of the diversion, you're going to
Mm.
see a very, very significant impact on all Indian aviation that is westward bound. uh, the losses are going to be massive. You're going to see diversions initially. Of course, later they will compensate by either reducing
Mm.
the passenger load or increasing the fuel load. But for today, at least, there is going to be very, very significant air disruption that you're going to see out there.
And how prepared are the Indian Airlines to manage such sudden international airspace disruptions like this Israel-Iran conflict?
They're very well placed for it. Indigo, which probably has shorter range, narrow body aircraft,
Yeah,
mostly traveling to some of these destinations, may have to add a route stop somewhere, or may not be able to carry it out, because if you notice the entire swath of territory that's denuded of aviation right now, it
yeah,
is all the way from eastern Iran up to the Mediterranean Sea. There is
yeah.
nothing over Lebanon and Jordan and Israel right now. So they'll have to go all the way to possibly Egypt before they turn north. I doubt very much Indigo's narrow bodies have that range. But wide bodies can manage that quite well, Zafar. At least the ones to Europe will be able to manage. The ones to America, I think, may not be. That is where it is the India America flights that will see maximum disruption, because
Yeah.
even if they fly north, it is not advisable from Delhi to then go over the Himalayas and say China and then fly north via Russia, because that is a very fraught route. Carrying a heavy load immediately after takeoff, there is no diversionary airport at great height in the Tibetan plateau. The kind of weights involved in landing in Tibet are extremely precarious. I've done a A330 heavy body landing into Lhasa, and even for a wide body that can carry about 300 passengers like that, two-thirds of the plane had to be kept empty. So, there's all kinds of logistical complications. So the America flights will be significantly affected.
There's no end to the problems. There was this unfortunate incident yesterday, and today we are seeing a problem of an entirely different nature. To be ready to deal with any such issue. But thanks so much, Abhijit, for joining us today. We'll leave our viewers with a report that's sent by Harshit from the ground, with the distraught families who are still trying to look for their loved ones, and at that DNA center. Let's play that report.
आपका क्या नाम है? आप किसको ढूंढ रहे हैं?
मैं, मेरे बच्चे और मेरी मम्मी को।
कहाँ थे वो लोग?
वो लोग मेस बिल्डिंग में थे,
जी।
जहाँ खाना बनाते
आप भाई हैं फाइल के?
हाँ
जी। तो जब ये क्रैश हुआ वहीं पे थी आपकी मम्मी?
हाँ, ये क्रैश हुआ है, मेस बिल्डिंग के ऊपर ही क्रैश हुआ है।
जी।
हाँ, वहाँ मम्मी नीचे खाना बनाती है।
तो आपको कैसे पता चला इस क्रैश के बारे में?
हमको यहाँ पे, हम तो पीजी हॉस्टल में टिफिन सर्विस का काम करते हैं, तो यहाँ से पता चला कि आग लगी है, ऐसा कुछ। तो हम देखने गए तो यहाँ से पता चला कि अतुल्य में आग लगी है, वहाँ पर कुछ ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं। तो जब घूम के फिर वापस गए तब पता चला कि विमान क्रैश मेस बिल्डिंग के पे ही हुआ है।
फिर आपने अपनी मम्मी को ढूंढने की कोशिश की?
हाँ, अंदर तो गार्ड लोग को जाने तो नहीं दे रहे थे, पर सब लोग को बाहर निकालने की कोशिश की है, पर सबको बाहर निकाला, उसमें तक मम्मी और मेरी लड़की नहीं आए, नहीं पता चल रहा।
आपकी 2 साल की लड़की?
2 साल की लड़की।
अभी आपको नहीं पता है कि वो हैं भी या नहीं बच पाई हैं?
हाँ।
आपका सैंपल हो गया, आपकी बहन ने सैंपल दिया है?
हाँ।
पुलिस ने कुछ और बताया है आपको?
नहीं, वहाँ से तो कुछ नहीं, जाने ही नहीं दे रहे हैं, वहाँ नहीं जाने दे रहे हैं।
मतलब आपने कोशिश की अपनी मम्मी को ढूंढने की, लेकिन?
हाँ, नहीं जाने दे रहे थे। कल जो आग लगी हुई थी, पर कुछ नहीं पता चल रहा है।
आपकी लड़की जो 2 साल की थी उससे कब मिले थे आप? उसी दिन मिले थे?
हाँ, हम लोग हर रोज साथ में लेके काम करने आते हैं वहाँ पे।
तो आपकी मम्मी उस दिन ले गई थी काम करने?
हम, मम्मी, वाइफ, हम लोग सब टिफिन सर्विस का काम करते हैं
आप
सिविल
बाहर
हॉस्पिटल
गए
में।
हुए थे?
हम टिफिन देने जाते हैं तब मम्मी के पास छोड़ के आते हैं।
और उस वक्त ये हादसा हुआ?
हाँ, उस वक्त ये हादसा हुआ। जो चूल्हा वूल्हा था सब वैसे का वैसा ही पड़ा है, पर पता नहीं, पर
कुछ खाया आप लोगों ने कल से?
कुछ खाया नहीं है, कल से दौड़ रहे हैं, नहीं कुछ पता चल रहा, नहीं कहीं कोई जगह एडमिट नहीं है।
कहीं एडमिट नहीं है वो? जहाँ पे घायलों को रखा गया है
सब जगह जाके आए, प्राइवेट में भी जाके आए, कोई जगह नहीं है।
अब क्या करेंगे आप?
सब खत्म।
ये भी एक कहानी है। इनकी 2 साल की बेटी, इन्हें ये नहीं पता कि वो कहाँ है, वो घायल है, वो बच पाई है या नहीं बच पाई है। ये अपनी बहन के साथ इस वक्त यहाँ मौजूद हैं और जो जो इन्हें करने के लिए कहा जा रहा है वो कर रहे हैं। अपना खून जमा करा रहे हैं ताकि मिलाकर ये बताया जा सके कि इनके परिवार के लोग कहाँ हैं। आप हिम्मत रखिए और हम उम्मीद कर सकते हैं सिर्फ, लेकिन आपकी ज़िंदगी पूरी बदल जाएगी इसके बाद।
लड़का बच गया, नीचे उतर गया।
लड़का भी आपका वहीं था, वो बच गया। तो अभी इधर है लड़का, उसको चोट आई है?
नहीं, उसको चोट नहीं है।
बच गया है। आप इनके साथी हैं? आपका क्या नाम है?
जिग्नेश नाम है।
हाँ जी,
प्रजापति जिग्नेश।
जिग्नेश। आप क्या क्या रिश्ता था आपका?
फ्रेंड है मेरा।
फ्रेंड। आप वहीं थे कल?
ना कल।
आप अभी ढूंढ रहे हैं, कोशिश कर रहे हैं?
हाँ ढूंढे, कल क्या मिले नहीं था।
नहीं मिली है अभी तक। कुछ खाया आप लोगों ने?
ना कुछ ना कुछ
आप
खाए।
कुछ खिला दीजिए आप इनको, और थोड़ा सा आप ख्याल रखिए। जी जी जी। ये बड़े परेशान करने वाले जो हैं विजुअल्स आपकी स्क्रीन पर। पुलिस अपना काम कर रही है, मीडिया कर्मियों को कोशिश की जा रही है कि बाहर किया जाए, कम से कम इंटरेक्शन हो, लोग परेशान ना हो, सबका अपना अपना काम है। लेकिन जो विजुअल्स हैं वो बड़े ही परेशान करने वाले हैं, दर्दनाक हैं, और ऐसी कहानियाँ अगले कुछ घंटों में आपको शायद देखने को लगातार मिलती रहें। अब इस पर आप क्या कह सकते हैं, क्या महसूस कर सकते हैं, वो भी सब आप ही के ऊपर छोड़ना बेहतर होगा। ये कहानी थी पायल की और रवि की। रवि जिसने अपनी 2 साल की बेटी आयत को अपनी माँ के साथ छोड़ा था देखभाल करने के लिए, और इस वक्त पिछले दोनों ही लोग नहीं मिल रहे हैं। घायलों में उनका नाम शुमार नहीं है, मृतकों में उनकी पुष्टि नहीं की गई है। सैंपल दर्ज करा दिया गया है। देखना होगा अगले आने वाले कुछ घंटों में क्या खबर उनके लिए आती है। कैमरा पर्सन अनुप कुमार के साथ मोजो स्टोरी के लिए अहमदाबाद से हर्ष शर्मा की रिपोर्ट।
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.